Okay. Hello,
Hello.
hello.
Good
How
evening.
you, how you doing, sir?
I am okay, thank you.
I'm happy to hear that.
Sure.
So I had to. Hello, everybody. Sorry, I was like getting some things in order here. But I wanted to be on time. Let me adjust this here. Um, Good to have you on, Vivek.
Thank you.
We'll get out. So I'll introduce, and then as the other folks, brothers, come on, we are expecting Esteban. Esteban texts me. I think he's on his way home, so should be here in the next 10 or so minutes.
Okay.
Um, and then Josh. So whenever Josh is available, oh, there he is right there. Um, we'll pop on. But yeah, we'll get started right away. I gotta do some grocery shopping, so that will be
Okay.
that will be the thing that gets me out of here on time. Because you, when you think about um, Josh, and then of course when Esteban joins, like those, you are all people that I can have many conversations with throughout the day.
Wonderful.
Long
Powerful group.
conversations.
Powerful group.
Yeah, absolutely. Josh, man, it's been forever, dude.
What's going on, my brother? How are you?
I'm doing well. Good to see you.
You as well, my brother. You as well.
Hey, so without further ado, this is DJ Johnson here, doing our weekly IG live for DJ Inspires Parenting. The goal every week is to provide conversation that is going to move the needle and help parents better connect, better be in position, or be in a better position to do this parenting thing uh, a little better, a little easier. I don't know how to say that. We all can acknowledge and recognize that parenting is not easy, but I do know and acknowledge and recognize that parenting is difficult without community.
Mm.
And so I think it's so important that I have a community of brothers that I can tap in with and tap into. And Josh, Esteban will be here later, and my guy Vivek. Fathers who are just out here doing it consciously, doing it in a space where it feels like so many fathers out there um, are not doing it in this way, right? Feel like they're tapping into old societal norms and old societal ways, trying to hold on to hardness and a hard exterior and lack of emotions and all these different things. And the
Mm.
reality is, what I'm hearing from students, the conversations that I'm having with them, is that we just need dads to be more in tune with their kids, more importantly, but more in tune with themselves and their emotions and their feelings and all of those different things, because that is what these kids have been asking for. That is what these kids want. And it sounds like, I don't know about y'all, but it sounds like the mothers that y'all are partnering in this parenting journey with want that as well. So that is the introduction. This will be reposted. So if you're like, hey, I got to pop off or whatever it is, it'll be reposted. So you'll be able to catch the replay. Or you might hear it and you're like, I need to watch this again so I can take notes. So the intention tonight, let me set the intentions. The intention for this conversation is to help dads who are struggling to adapt to conscious parenting. I personally ascribe to conscious parenting over gentle parenting, even though I technically gentle parent, um, because my reasoning is always, when I'm consciously thinking about how I want to parent my son, I'm being super intentional about how I speak to him, how I am with him, what my actions are towards him, the things that I try to instill in him. Everything is intentional. And it's intentional because I want to make sure that my actions now does not hinder who he's going to be in the future. So that's why I subscribe to conscious parenting. And I think the biggest issue that I find with a lot of dads is they don't want to subscribe to it because they don't want to give away the ability to enforce discipline, enforce
Mm.
punishment, enforce all these different things that we've been taught that needs to be enforced. So I want y'all to I introduce the topic, but I want to start with Vivek and just kind of introduce yourself, introduce kind of what you, I don't say bring it to the table, but what you are, what you do, what you provide for parents,
Sure.
and just kind of where your perspective is coming from.
Sure. Absolutely. Thank you. So my name is
Yes.
Vivek Patel. I'm from Meaningful Ideas all over the internet. And I also love that you think about it as conscious parenting. There's so many names, right? Conscious
Oh yeah.
parenting, peaceful parenting, gentle parenting,
Yeah.
responsive parenting. Um, I call it non-coercive collaborative parenting, which
Okay.
is not as catchy, but it's more descriptive. The non-coercive part is not forcing, not using coercion, not using our power to control our kids. And the collaboration is the thing that we do, is the working together, creating a strong relationship, creating patterns of communication, and working together and problem solving together and thinking together and feeling together so that we're on the same team. I call it the non-coercion is what we don't do, and the collaboration is what we do. I call it the don't do and the do. And and so my kid is 25, living in her own apartment with her partner and has a job. And and from the very beginning, we parented non-coercively. We didn't have names for it. We didn't. There were no websites back in '97 when my kid was born. You know, the
Yeah.
internet wasn't even around. We just knew we didn't want to do things the same way. You know, I'm from India and my wife is from Trinidad, and so we both grew up with pretty strict, punitive cultures, and we both wanted to
Ah,
rewrite that script.
no.
And we
So
both wanted to. That's cool. We both wanted to. Kids always come first, and we both
I
wanted to
know.
rewrite that script. And so what we did was we decided to have no punishment in our home, just like what you were saying. No punishment, no consequences. We had no rules because rules implies that you have to enforce the rule, which needs power. And we didn't want to have power over our kids. We did have
Yeah.
guidelines and we did operate from principles and we focused on relationship, but we didn't use anything that required power or coercion or force. And so this was, and it created a beautiful relationship between us. You know, now my both my wife and my kid and I and my kid, we have this incredible relationship with a young adult where we text each other every day. I text my kid good night every night. And we just send pictures of what we're doing throughout the day to each other. We have like a real close connected relationship, even though my kid's living her own life now, right? And so this is what I want for parents. I want them to have a relationship where their relationship, where their influence lasts a lifetime.
Mm,
For
you
me,
know,
I
it's
turned go.
don't you? Me and Josh have a thing. He's used to it, so I might stop him as well. But
Yeah.
what we not gonna do on this live is we not just gonna brush over bars like they didn't just happen. We not say that one more time about
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
relationship.
yeah. Yeah, a relationship where your kids don't turn away from you. A relationship that lasts a lifetime. And where the influence lasts a lifetime. You know, my kid not only doesn't resist my guidance, she craves it. Because
Mhm.
number one, it was never enforced. Number two, that she always had choice. And number three, I made sure it always felt good to her. It always improved her life. Felt like it improved her life. Like I might think, oh yeah,
Yes.
this is improving my kid's life. But if they don't feel it, they're not going to absorb it, right? And so for me, I really like that. I like that you stopped for the bar there. That was good.
Yeah.
I
No, it's
I
so
turned
good.
away from my dad at the earliest opportunity. Let me tell you, my dad was spanking me, punishing me. I ran away from home the first time when I was like 6 years old. I was like, I'm out of here. This is not how you treat people, you know. And I knew that from
Yeah.
a young age. And I swore when I was a kid I was not going to turn into an adult that treated kids that way, you know.
Mhm.
And now when I'm in front of kids, they know it right away. They're like, oh, this guy gets it, and you know, and
Mhm.
they're like so open with me. They so willing to collaborate with me. The most resistant. I do a lot of volunteer work with youth groups and things like that. And the kids that are the most troublemakers, the most resistant and rebellious, after 5 minutes with me, they're like my best friends. You know, it's like it
Mhm.
really isn't hard to reach them because they're craving that.
Yeah.
And now I have the great fortune to share this information with a lot of parents and families, both in the coaching that I do and by all the videos. And I put out like hundreds of videos and hundreds of articles about this stuff. And so I really love sharing this information. So
I
that's
love
me.
it.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you for that. And I see Rena has some questions. Rena, can you do us a favor and put them in the question box so we make sure that we get them and they don't get lost in the comments? Because those are some good questions that you posed there.
Hmm.
And Josh, brother Josh, man, it's been a minute. I know we kind of been talking a little bit through text recently, but let us know what's going on with you. What are you up to these days? Y'all still in Milwaukee, right?
For now, for now.
Okay, for now. Okay.
For now.
Yeah, let the people know what's going on.
What's going on, world? My name is Joshua Liston, also known as Joshua Zwadi. I am known as Melanated Daddy.
Mm-hmm.
I am a fatherhood blogger who focuses on the lifestyle of a bonus parent, right? So I have a total of 4 children, 2 in which I have created and 2 in which my wife gave me as a gift in marriage, right? So, and then other kids that call me daddy who are best friends to my kids. It just kind of goes that way, right? Unlike the gentleman that just spoke before me, my path to conscious parenting was not a choice. My wife just said that, a choice.
I heard it.
My wife is indeed the guru to conscious parenting, and I am a drill sergeant. I'm a 10-year retired Army vet. I came with the hammer and had to realize real quick that it didn't work. So my children now react to me. My wife has posted a bunch of reels. She's in here, Melanated Mama. Just go to the page. I don't record myself. She does. Where I'm now, using my voice to soothe my children through their anxiety, stuff I would never do. It's like, what? That's black. No, because my job is to meet you where you are, right? And unfortunately, as much as I want to go back from time to time to who I was, it doesn't work. And at the end of the day, I end up causing more harm, not just for my children, but for my wife and myself to have to unpack later, right? It's just not worth it, right? So my wife is the conscious parent. I am along for the journey trying to figure out a title for what I'm doing. It's a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And it's ever evolving for where my children are. And where I am, right? And where I'm checking in with myself to check my own triggers and my own stuff along the way. So I will not come in here and act like the expert, y'all. I am fumbling and bumbling just like everybody else is to get it right.
No,
and, I
that's
will,
good.
and I will happily give that perspective because that's what transparency is what needs to happen, right, for me. So I'm going to let Vivek be the expert because he's been doing this for 30 years. I got it. I'm still getting my feet wet and making it work, y'all. So that's me.
I'll tell you, man, I'm stumbling with my 25-year-old just as much as when she was 5. It's a whole different world.
Yeah.
I call it stumbling. I call it stumbling with purpose.
Yeah.
I like that.
And Josh, your perspective is absolutely needed because most of the situations that I hear are moms who have adopted the conscious parenting way. And you have said, you know what? Wifey, I hear you. I'm going to do my best. Work with me, right? And a lot of dads have taken a position where they're not willing to work, right? And so I want you, since you brought it up and you shared it, my first question for you is, what was the challenge in the beginning for you? And what was the thing that clicked that said, okay, I'm on board. Like, I see what you're doing, wifey, and I'm going to try to do this.
So first off, there was not one thing that clicked. It's a choice.
Okay.
It's a daily choice, right? My children go from the age range of almost 10, 9, 6, and then baby girl is 2. And by virtue, 2 is the one, baby love is the one that gets the most grace because she's 2. And my wife has used her genius to help me understand that the same grace that the 2-year-old gets, the 9 and 10-year-old need as well. And the 6-year-old, they're just trying to figure it out. And Daddy, you can't come in with the hammer. You got to come in with the grace. So perfect example, 2 nights ago, Marley's door, my middle child, my 9-year-old, her door came off the hinge. And for her anxiety, when that door is closed, it's her safe space. The door is open, it's not safe. Daddy, I don't know what's out there. So all I did, y'all, was simply use my voice and count down from 100 to 0 as slow and methodically as I could. And she passed out by 50. Out like a light. The next morning, Daddy, thank you for counting with me. Right? In my mind, I didn't do anything. I meant that I counted with you so you can soothe because you was crying and screaming. I couldn't have that, right? So let me find a way to help you soothe through this.
Amazing.
But it was meeting her. It was meeting the need that she had in that moment. Now let's rewind to 2 years and she would have cried like that. My wife is right here as my witness. I don't know if to handle screaming. Why are you crying? It's just a door. Not
Hmm.
checking my own issues, right?
Hmm.
Because when I was a child, could I cry? No. I was told to shut up.
Hmm.
I don't want to hear it, right? So in my mind, it's a conscious choice. You're like, look,
Hmm.
I got to be different, right?
Amazing.
So to answer your question, I have never really arrived. It's me trying my best to meet where my wife has already gotten to, right?
That's yeah.
My wife is there already. My wife has the degrees, does the restorative circle. She does this. And I'm
Yeah.
like, no, that's whack. I got to catch up. So
Yeah.
for me in this moment, it's trying to really realize in the moment, what can I do that I didn't get as a child? And that's really how my mind has to process. When I was in this moment as a 2-year-old, as a 5-year-old, as a 9-year-old, what did I want that I didn't get? Because my mama parented from that lane to, I think it was called slavery parenting. I forgot the
Yeah.
name of what they called it.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
I got beat for everything. It didn't matter what
Yeah.
it was. My shoes untied, whooping. Like, wait, that doesn't make sense. What?
Yeah.
I got
Don't make sense. Yeah.
my shoe untied. Like that was
Right.
my parent. That's how I got it brought up.
Yeah.
And my wife has had me channel that 2-year-old, that 5-year-old, that 9-year-old who was silenced, so that I can understand what I'm doing to them if I keep that cycle going.
That's
Sounds
good.
like you're healing yourself at the same time.
It hurts. It sucks. It's
Yeah.
uncomfortable, but they deserve
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They deserve it. So I'm trying. Like I said, I'm not gonna come in here and act like I've made it. I fail every day, but I'm given the grace every day to be redeemed every day. So
Yeah.
we make it work.
Vivek, I'm gonna come to you in a second, but y'all in your introductions, and I want to, people see me kind of looking down, like I'm legitimately taking notes, like I'm like,
Yeah. I
because
came with notes.
right, they're dropping stuff, and I'm like, whoa, but like, here's some notes that I took when Vivek did his intro, when Josh did his intro, and just now. If you're taking notes as a mom who's trying to encourage a dad, or if a dad is on here and he's like, I'm just trying, my wife maybe come, and that's, I'm just part of this conversation. Here's my first tip for you. Check your issues at the door. Like, revisit what's happening for you, what's there for you. Did dad not give you everything that you needed as a child? Was there things that you rather he had done instead of just go to your games or whatever it might be? Did you want, I hear so many dads, so many grown adults who said, I never once heard my dad say, I'm sorry or I love you. Like how can we check those issues at the door so we can be present and be the dads that we need to be? That's the first. The second thing that I heard was relationship. We get so fixated on correcting our kids and putting them in their place and making sure that they're obedient for whatever society we're trying to prepare them for, that we fail to focus on the relationship. At the end of the day, do these kids want to be connected with you long term? I always say, have a relationship that stands the test of time. I'm about to steal what Vivek said earlier, and he said a relationship that lasts a lifetime. But here's important: influence that lasts a lifetime. Like, that's what we're working towards when we're trying to have a relationship with our kids as dads, but as parents in general. And then number two, what I heard from Josh, or number three now that I heard from Josh, was intentional language. He did it so subtly, but I caught it. And he said, my wife gave me kids through marriage. You don't hear that type of intentional language all the time when it comes to parenting. Like, a lot of times we say stuff and we don't mean it. And it's their kids or my wife's kid or whatever it might be. Like, when it comes to our kids, we have to be intentional with our language. So first, check your issues at the door if you're taking notes. Second, relationship has to be at the center of your parenting. 3, intentional language. I saw my buddy Esteban came on here, but while we're getting Esteban situated, Vivek, I want you to speak to some of those struggles that you hear of dads who struggle to get on the conscious parenting train. Like, I guess just share your insight on what you're seeing as far as why it's so hard for them to tap over into this, and then maybe a tip or two that you have that helps them kind of come to the light, I guess.
Sure. I'm fortunate that I get to work with a whole lot of families, and it's true what you said, that the majority of families that I work with, the heterosexual families that I work with, the mom is like on board, working the issues, trying really hard, working their stuff, blood, sweat, and tears to get this philosophy. And a lot of the time, most of the time, the dads aren't, and they just want discipline, they just want control, discipline in quotes, I say, and control. And welcome, Esteban. Nice to meet you. Nice to see you.
Hey,
And good, thank you. And yeah, and so, but I also have the great opportunity to work with some conscious dads who are putting everything into it, and it's amazing to witness the work that they're doing. And one of the things that we talk a lot about is redefining the idea of strength. And I think this is something that's really important, because I know for me, like I am a martial artist. I've been studying martial arts for like 35 years. I've been teaching martial arts and self-defense for probably 15 to 20 years, something like that. I only stopped teaching a couple of years ago to focus on the parenting education stuff. So, you know, like I brought up my kid like a ninja, you know, like we did everything like on the edge of danger all the time. We did martial art games from the very beginning, and you know, things were really intense and you know, in a fun way. Like we were always punching each other and throwing each other around, and I have weapons and gym mats all over my house, and we're always doing stuff. And we would go from playing with swords to playing with dolls in the same hour. And so redefining strength is important, because I don't want strength to be something that's like closed and limited and trapped in old notions of masculinity. I want us to be able to broaden that and not feel like I'm not being strong and I'm not guiding my kids. No, it's not true. Actually, you're going to have so much more guidance with your kids, so much more influence with your kids. They're going to look up to you as you know, as a real guide, as a real source of wisdom. And wisdom isn't force and control and telling someone what to do. Wisdom is inspiring them to want to follow, right? A true leader, the people that follow them, they want to follow. They know it's in their best interest, that they're excited to follow you. Like that's the kind of leader that I want to be as a father. And so it means changing like so much of how we see strength. What is strong thinking? You know, strong thinking isn't closed thinking. Strong thinking is open and flexible thinking. Being willing to change, being willing to listen, being willing to think deeply about something, and being willing to be wrong. Like these are things that seem like weaknesses traditionally, but if we can reframe them as strengths, then all of a sudden we can step into the power of our thinking. And also thinking about, sorry, did you want to say something?
No, I was agreeing with you.
Yeah.
Vivek, I'm upset that he didn't stop you when you first said
Oh,
our image is strength.
I wrote it down too.
I was mad. Like, wait, you're not going to stop him? He said we don't let the gyms go.
Right.
The gym go.
I dig it. I was half waiting for it, to be honest. I was waiting for it.
I wrote it down. I promise I wrote it down. Step in, man. I'm taking notes. I'm telling you.
I need you to understand. My wife has been preaching this same message to me since we've been married.
Right.
And it took recently to finally click. Well, my daughters have always seen me as this strong mountain. I'm 6'3". I'm a big dude.
Right.
So my children already see me as strong.
Yeah.
But then when I'm able to be vulnerably strong, it's a different level of connection with my kids. Totally. And it's uncomfortable. I won't sit here and tell anybody on this stage that vulnerability with your children is easy. It's uncomfortable, especially because a lot of us, our parents weren't that way. My mama would not cry in front of me. She wouldn't tell me what's going on. And so I was raised by a single mother, and my emotions were stomped out. There was no emotional response for me. I had to learn emotions through my children.
Yeah.
My wife and my children had to teach me. I'm 34 years old. I don't mind saying it. And I just learned my emotions.
Yeah, man.
I just learned it. It took my children to teach me, right? Yeah. And so the strength that I possess physically is nothing if you don't have the vulnerability side to tap into as well. Right? So I love what you said, because that is my daily task. Okay, how can I be different than what my mama was to me? And it's in my phone. It's a notepad. Like, what can I do to be different? Yeah. Because what I got was toxic as hell.
Totally.
And it's like, man, I can't continue that and then want my daughters to go out here and not get a man who's going to run through them and everything
Right.
else. Or my son who's
That's
going to
right.
go out here and become a womanizer because he
Right.
saw his daddy be toxic, right?
Right.
I,
Yeah.
it's what can I do to be, but I'm going to shut up. But that was
No,
powerful,
you good.
Vic. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you
I
for
dig
that.
it. I used to say
You
I
know,
searched for my tears for years.
Ooh,
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
search for my tears
Yeah.
for years. Oh
Yeah.
goodness.
Do you
So
know
You
how
know what,
hard it
Vivek?
is to cry, Vivek?
yeah,
Do
man.
you know how hard
It's so
me?
hard.
So I'm gonna share this story real quick. The father of my bonus babies came to the house, and my internal compass went crazy. My
Mm.
what you call my what system, sir?
Nervous
My
system.
nervous system started to go ham. My wife right here, she's here.
I love it.
Yeah.
Hey,
How
I
guys.
long?
wasn't in fight or flight. I was in fight or fight. Like you
Yeah.
got to see me
Yeah.
because you came to my house.
Right.
And granted, he doesn't come often. He doesn't call often. The time he showed was the first time in about 3 years. But the
Mm.
fact that you came to my house and got comfortable sent me into a rage. And I
Mm.
couldn't understand. I had to text my wife, like, baby, I'm mad and I can't explain it to you, but I'm hot. After I got past the rage and screamed with my wife, or at my wife, depending on how you look at it, at my wife, and she gave me the space to do it, y'all. I screamed for maybe 45 minutes, and then we finally got to the meat and potatoes of what the issue is. And it's very simply, he is teaching my children that they need to chase after somebody
Mm.
and not teaching my children
Ooh.
they're worth being chased.
Mm.
And that
Wow.
hurt me. How
Yeah.
dare you come
Nice.
once every 3 years to these blessings that my wife gave me
Oh,
and
Yeah.
that you
man.
take for granted. It killed me, y'all, and I couldn't
Yeah.
figure out the emotions. It took my wife to put this 15-minute video on of deep meditation and deep breathing for it to finally hit.
Mm.
And I couldn't cry. It wanted to come, but I
Yeah.
couldn't let it out. It wouldn't come. So for you to say you've searched for your tears for years, I'm still searching.
Yeah.
Like I'm talking to them and they want to come, but they
Yeah.
won't. And I can't
Yeah.
understand why. I don't know what's stopping them, but they won't flow.
Yeah.
But my body's like, you know, you want to cry, let it out. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
let it out, and they won't come.
I can still remember when I broke through that wall because I'm 53, so I have a couple of years on you.
Man,
And I can still remember, hello, little one, nice to see you. I'm so happy you're in the video. You're awesome. You are awesome. And always kids first. And I fought and fought and fought for it. Now I can cry like a puddle on the floor, but you know, like the fear of it. I mean, when I would cry and get smacked around for it, it was dangerous to cry. It was dangerous to my life to cry, right?
Yeah.
And so this is another thing about redefining strength. Now when I cry, honestly, when I cry now, I feel so powerful. I feel like, yeah, I did it. Fuck you, all the limitations. Fuck you, Dad. You know, I feel that way, you know?
yes.
And I feel this power inside of me when I cry because I'm like I had to fight so hard to find my way there, you know?
That's so good.
And so yeah.
Before we continue with this hot fire, I want to give Esteban an opportunity to
Yes,
just kind of
please.
let the people know who you are and what your role as a father is. What am I trying to say? Introduce yourself, bro.
Hey guys, my name is Esteban Gonzalez. I'm a father of two, little boy and a little girl. My boy is 7 years old. My little girl is 3 years old.
Sweet.
I am also married. It's going to be our 10-year anniversary in October. So I'm very excited about that. This whole conscious parenting journey, man, has been how you guys have exactly described it. It's a very therapeutic experience for me. And just how you guys were saying, you know, you're trying to cry. Some of you have already cried. That's never been an issue for me. What's been an issue is why. Why am I feeling this at the moment? And the whole idea of conscious parenting for me, being a therapeutic experience, is trying to identify my triggers. That has allowed me to identify my triggers. Why is it that my blood boils when I'm in public and I see moms and dads threatening their sons with violence when they're crying? Why do I feel some type of way? Why is it when I see a corny commercial, about a dad and a son bonding together that I get so freaking emotional. It's because I didn't have these things, or because I've witnessed a lot of these things. And that has allowed me consciously, to identify, okay, what is it that bothers me? Why does it bother me so much? I can't do the same thing. I can't repeat the same cycles to my children, because then they're going to have the same questions that I have today as grown adults. And that is going to affect them in all types of ways. All of our traumatic experiences have affected us. How can we move forward from that? So I just wanted to say I respect that. And it's always been an issue as to why. Why do I feel this? Why do I feel some type of way when I see these things? And how can I fix that? And how can we prevent that from our children, so they don't learn the same traumas or the same like negative impact that we had to learn?
Oh, so good. So good. I want to remind everyone, thank you, Esteban. I want to remind everyone, make sure y'all put your questions in the question box, because we want to make sure we get to them. And y'all are asking some really great questions. But I want to make sure that we, finish kind of the topics that we want to kind of to cover before we get into the questions. But we will answer questions towards the end. So just make sure we put them in the question box. So just I see your question. I want you to put it in the question box, so we want to answer it for you later. Esteban, I'm gonna bring it back to you. What was it for you that made you decide, like, I'm going to parent differently than how my parents parented me? And would you say have you regretted that decision at all? I know the answer, but I want you to share.
Well, right off the bat, I have not regretted it at all, because I always think about the long term, right? What's the grand scheme of things, right? I have always said, I keep pushing it down, people. Parenting is the greatest form of activism on planet Earth, because you could change a whole generation just to how you parent.
Right. Wait. That was a bar.
About time, DJ. I was over here hoping to text you. Are you slipping?
Say it one more time.
That's right on.
Parenting is the greatest form of activism. And I mean, and all you have to do is do it in the comfort of your own home. It doesn't have to leave. Like, of course, you're gonna be dealt with different scenarios out in the street. I believe we've all been through this, where maybe our child maybe goes through some type of tantrum out in public. How are we going to handle that situation? I know how my parents would have handled that situation. I know how like other people that I've seen on the street would handle that situation. One of the triggers that I just described a minute ago, how I remember I was at a taco spot, and it's still to this day, it's like it's tattooed to my brain. She was calling her boy a pussy, telling him that she was gonna beat him up in the restroom if he didn't stop crying. That was like, imagine if it was a traumatic experience for me I think I was like 28 at the time, as an adult, how bad it was for the child at the moment. And then going forward, how is that going to affect him with everything, right? Like, those are the type of things that I mean, it's okay. It's like two things could be right? I say this. Your parents could have been some great providers. They could have they could have had you in the best fit, put you in the greatest school, fed you the best food, kept your belly full, but they could be lousy nurturers. And just like there's this J. Cole audio reel meme. I forget how the bar goes, but it's like, why can't I only have this and that one when I can have both? You could be a great provider, and you could be a great nurturer to your children, right? So that's my thing, man. Like, going forward, even I drop the ball at times. My wife, I've been blessed to have a wife that is so nurturing to our children. When I get off track, when my old traumatic experience or my old school ways or the stuff that was passed on to me creeps in, with my children, she's quick to say, hey, Esteban, you need to do it this way. You know, you're dropping the ball right there. Or we'll have those conversations right after that. So that is why, man, it's bigger than me, dude. Like, conscious parenting, it's bigger than me. It's like, if you want to start your own revolution, if you want to change the world, it starts at home.
That's so good. Man,
Yeah.
so good. I two thoughts came to mind. Melanated Mama mentioned like just how we have turned into a society that forgets the fact that children are people. And every time I think about conscious parenting being a resistance, every time I think about people who get so bent out of shape when you say that you don't hit your kids, I think about who instilled this thinking in the first place and how they are benefiting from us parenting our kids this way. I always say this, like, if I can coerce you to be obedient and do what you said, what you're told, and follow rules and do all these things, maybe I could sneak a couple of laws into play that has you not even questioning it, because all your life you've been told not to question authority. Don't question me. I'm the adult. I'm the authority. You listen to what I have to say. As an adult now, when things are messed up, me and Esteban had this conversation already. For a while, I couldn't go to a restaurant and have my order be messed up, and I speak up about it. I just eat it, and I just do like, hey, it's just not good right now. Like, I could speak up on that. I should speak up when my order is not right. But the way that I was raised and the things that were instilled in me made me think of that. The other thing I heard from y'all, and I gotta make sure I remember it, because sometimes I do this. I have two thoughts and I forget the other one. I didn't get. Well, I'll just go to my question I was gonna ask. We, as those dads who are resistant, a lot of them have a hard time taking correction from mom. Like, if mom is like, yo, you got to do it this way. Like, oh, don't tell me how to. And I always tell dads, like, look, man, naturally, through nature, moms are experts, right? Moms get it. My wife be thinking of stuff that I'd be like, yeah, that just didn't come to me. That thought didn't come to me. And so I have chosen to look at her as the expert of this family. And if she suggests something or she offers something to me, I'm like, oh, respect, how do you think I should do it? Or I'll process it and I'll figure out a way to kind of go in that path. What advice would y'all give to kind of help dads understand, like, yo, don't be like, we're supposed to do this as a team. Like, we're not supposed to be against each other in this parenting journey. We're supposed to be partnerships in this. How do we help these dads kind of take that advice and get that expertise from the mom so we can do this thing together? Josh, I'm tagging you in. There you go.
I was gonna let your boy Vivek go. Like, that's the expert. I was gonna let him handle it. I can only speak from experience, right? And I say that, like I laid earlier, I am not a conscious parent by any other choice, but by force, because that's how my wife does it.
That's funny.
I think number one was just, I mean, it's just the truth, right?
It's okay.
I think number one is being okay with being ignorant. There's absolutely nothing wrong with being ignorant about things. I do not know. All I know is what I know. And what I don't know, my wife has the ability to fill in those gaps for me. And being okay with saying, look, I'm ignorant to this and it's okay. Number two, I've had to work on this personally. It's not an attack, right? Being corrected is not an attack. Being corrected for the betterment of the children is her responsibility as my rib, as my best friend, as my partner. It's not an attack. So I have to, and I'm talking because I'm still working, right? I have to constantly go back, like, look, okay, wait. And she's like, baby, I see you getting tense. Look, I'm not attacking. I'm giving. I'm okay. And I have to then go through what I got to go through to rephrase and move things around. So it's a me issue. The thing about conscious parenting is very simple. You have to deal with you. If you've never dealt with you, conscious parenting will never work. Yep. Because we as adults have traumas that were passed down, have triggers that were given, have situations that cause us to be X, Y, and Z. If you don't deal with X, Y, and Z, you can't deal with a child who's raised consciously. Yeah. Because they don't have the same rule book we had. Yeah. They can ask why. I could not ask why. That was my first trigger I had to that's the first trigger I had to deal with. oh,
Yeah.
they can ask me why. She's like, why can't they? I was like, because I couldn't ask why. She's like, because you were raised toxically. They can ask why. Oh, and I had to rewire and had to do the work and do it. So it's a choice. It's a daily choice to be different.
Yeah.
You know what I
Every
see in
day.
you, Josh?
Either what?
Sorry, I want to say something. One thing I see in you, because you say you were forced, but one thing I see in you is a lot of humility, openness to it. You know, it
That
may
was
have to,
forced too.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's coming through. I have to say, it's coming through because I mean, like that's another redefining strength for me. You know, is redefining humility as a strength and the willingness to be open as a strength. And I see that in you, in the way you're
Vivek,
talking.
you spoke there, and I appreciate that. Thank you for speaking life into me. I do appreciate it. When you said that about the strength, that is the struggle / journey I battle with every day, right?
Yeah.
Because as soon as, especially with my son, and my wife told me to share the story, my son has a habit of just doing things that I would classify as just dumb stuff. Like sometimes he just does stuff like, what? Why did you think that made sense? And he'd be like, I don't know. And that's the only answer he has. It's like, oh, I don't know. And then when you peel back the layers, he's bored, he's tired, or needs something to do. And that's really what it is, right? And I had my wife's like, baby, you got to stop yelling at him. He's just trying to figure it out. Figure what out? We don't do this. These are our norms. Josh, you don't follow our norms every day, so why should he? I was like, oh. Okay, right? And that's real, right? Me and my wife have norms that we've set for when we argue that I often don't follow. Because when I'm hot, I'm hot. And the norms go out the window. And my wife would just say like, Josh, our norms. Come back to the norm. And like, okay. So I get it, right? So it's a choice. So my first tip for fathers who are struggling is you have to be okay with not calling the shots in every area.
Can you repeat it one more time? Because I would classify that as a bar.
You have to be okay with not being the lead in every area. My wife leads the parenting in my household. If I'm very real in my life, my wife leads a lot of areas in this household. That's her. You heard her. I am lucky that I'm married who I'm married. She gives me the title of head, but we all understand who runs stuff for real, and I get it. So you have to be okay with not being in lead and always being okay to go back to the person who's the expert. Baby, I'm struggling. I was hot at King, and instead of yelling, I talked to my wife. I said, baby, look, it just doesn't make sense. Baby, look, this is fundamentally appropriate for his age. He's going to do dumb stuff. You got to stop taking it personal and allow him to do dumb stuff. He will learn. We just got to keep teaching the lesson and not shaming because how I was parented through shame. So it was, oh, how could your dumb man forget this? Or you so stupid you forgot that. And like, damn, wait. So then I actually, baby, don't go back to that because we're not parenting through the lens of shame. We're teaching the lesson so that he wants to do it. Cool, got it. So I guess number one is being okay with not being the lead in every area. And number two, which I preach in every space that we're in, DJ, men in general, but the black men community that I deal with, y'all need some therapy. Y'all need some damn therapy. Get some therapy. Figure out what the hell wrong with you. Because we can't keep passing on our lack of help or our lack of solving our traumas to our children. That's not their job to be our pincushions for our trauma. And it's not just our kids, our spouses, our workplace environments. We go around just causing trauma everywhere because we don't want to heal. Get some therapy and heal. And this process will become a lot easier for you.
I love that. Vivek, did you want to offer insight?
Sure, yeah. And you know, it takes courage to do that too, you know. There's so often in society, when you said go to therapy and heal your stuff, I hear all those people out there that make fun of people who do that, like say, oh, you need a safe space. Oh, F your feelings. Oh, you're a snowflake is the big word for people who, you know, have actual feelings about things. And that whole crowd, who I'm not going to name, but that whole crowd who talks that way and thinks that way and feels that way, they're so disconnected from their humanity. They're disconnected from their own power. It feels like power when you're strong on the outside like that, but there's an inner power that's missing there. And I have found that
No. I was because I
That just means you dropped the bar, Vivek.
you
That's what that
did,
means.
you did, and I
DJ
want you
does
to
these
say it
things where
again
he'll just point like, yeah,
because I
and
wrote
Right.
and
it
then I
connected at the bar.
so because I say all the time, there's something about people that have been raised the old school way that I can't put my finger on it, and I think you said it. They're disconnected from their personal power.
Yeah.
And
Disconnected
until
from
you
their
said it,
humanity.
and I didn't, disconnected from their humanity. Like
Yeah.
it didn't hit me until you said it, and I'm like, whoa, that's it. That is
Yeah.
the missing piece. So
Yeah.
sorry, keep going.
Yeah. No, it's cool. It's a deep wound, right? It's a deep wound, and wounds need time to heal. I had surgery on my back like about a month ago, and I have to get my bandage changed every other day right now. And this wound is
Mm,
taking its time to heal, you know.
yeah,
And if something pokes it, I jump, you know, and it's exactly the same. It's like it was a hole like this big in the back of my back, and now it's like
wow.
this big.
Okay.
And so yeah, I haven't really been able to dance for a month, and which just sucks.
Yeah,
But yeah, but our inner wounds are the same way, right? They're gaping huge holes, and anything just touches them, and it sets us off. And you can
yeah,
just see that in people so clearly everywhere you go.
yeah.
To have the courage to actually face your wound and know that you have it, admit that you have it, and then do the work that it takes to heal it is so important. Like all the nurses that have been changing my bandage, one thing they constantly are telling me is, Vivek, are you drinking enough water and are you having good nutrition? Because that's the thing that's going to
Mm,
heal the most. And so I've been thinking about that. I was like, okay, well, what's the water and the nutrition for my inner wounds? What do I need to be thinking and
wow.
feeling, and the way I perceive things and the way I'm interacting with myself?
In fact,
That's
that's
going to be
like
that
six.
nutrition.
You dropped six. Can you say that one more time?
It's
What's
what
the
I do,
water
DJ. This
and
is
the
all I do.
and the
I love
nutrients
you,
for
man.
my?
I feel so
Say,
encouraged with you. Thank you. It's
say it
amazing.
one more time,
Yeah,
please.
yeah. Well, it's the wound. That's what we're talking about, right? That
Yeah.
wound and how if it gets poked, we jump. And so that's what a trigger is, you know,
Mm,
when we jump like that. And it takes courage to be able to face that wound, to look it square in the face, because it can feel like weakness. It can feel like we're less than. It can feel like that, like I mentioned, the people making fun of a safe space, you know?
yeah.
And I mean, like, why would you want to be in a space that's not safe? That means you're being bullied. It means you're being oppressed. It means you're being overpowered. It means you're not being listened to. It means you're not being respected. Maybe you don't
Yeah.
understand what a safe space is, my friend.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you know, like safety is not a bad thing. Safety is what we should be aiming for in all our relationships.
But so
And
many of us have been programmed to believe that safety is like safety. What was safety to a lot of us? Like, we talk about, I talk often or share with parents that I work with about the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And I remember my parents used to brag and boast about, I put food on the table, gave you clothes, I gave you a shelter. Oh, you gave me literally the bare minimum bottom of the Maslow's hierarchy of need. What about the other steps?
right.
And so I think so many of us have this skewed view of what is safety. And ultimately, back to what you said earlier, Vivek, and I think it's a theme really, and that's our definition of what we feel is strong. What is strength,
Mm,
right?
mm,
Is it getting it out of gutter? Is it getting it out the mud? Is it making sure that our family is taken care of financially? Is that what some of us fellas out there are defining as strength? Or is it the
right.
things that we have tapped into, and that is being more in tune with our feelings and emotions, and more importantly, being connected to our kids and having relationships that so far looks like they're going to stand the test of time, looks like our influence is going to last a lifetime. It looks like those things are going to happen. And I think so many of us are so out of touch with just what it really truly means to be strength. I'm sure all y'all can agree. Like, since I became a father, like I am a hundred times better person than I was before I was a father. Like, not even close. And every year since my son has been born, it just seems like there's been level ups all across the board. I think my book came out shortly after my son was born. Then I started my business, and now I'm full time in my business. Like, it's just crazy how my intention that I set to be the best parent that I could be to my son just so happens to spill all over the other areas of my life. And I think that's the part that a lot of dads are missing. They don't see how they're so one track mind and focus on the providing part that
Mm,
we're better than that. Like, you're a human being of what I would like to believe of God, and that means you're greater than just being a provider.
Right.
There's so much more to you. Like,
But DJ, can I challenge that? And
yeah,
I'm not going to challenge it in a bad way. I'm going to challenge it.
no, you're good.
So we have to understand each one of us as men on this screen all have a very different upbringing, but have to understand that our upbringing led to what security means for us. So for me,
Gotcha.
my mother was loaded. Financially, we could go where we wanted to do, however we wanted to. It didn't matter. But the financial security was there. All the other securities were void. So the reason I married my wife was not because she had money, but because she can give me a level of security that my own mother couldn't give me. Right? So I sought out the safety in my wife that my mother never gave.
Yeah.
So, and to go back to the point of safety as a financial, we live in a capitalistic environment.
Yeah.
Right? I was told as a child that my worth as a black man was attached to how much money I had in my account. Yeah. I was raised to believe there was an equal line between how much my financial was to how much my worth as a man was. It took my wife, once again, but baby, you know you provide more than money, right?
Wow.
I was like, so my wife said, baby, I married you because you provided a spiritual security that no other man had. I was like, what? She said, the fact that you knew God so fluently is why I came to you. Oh, okay. Right? Because my wife was a principal when I met her. The money was there. She had it already. That's not what she needed. What she needed was a man who knew God and could help her get her way there as well. So providing is not financial. Providing is filling the gap for the needs of those who need it. Right? So my job is...
Really? You didn't recognize that was a bar? You just going to keep going? Like,
I was going to keep going. I was hoping you was going to let me pass like Vivek.
Please repeat the bar. Wow.
Providing is filling the gap for those who we are providing for. So if you need me to fill X, Y, and Z, then I'm providing for you X, Y, and Z. Not what I want to provide or what I think I should provide, what you tell me you need of me. That's my job. Yeah. But in order for you to tell me what you need of me, that requires relationship.
Yes.
I have to create a space where you can tell me, Daddy, I really need this. Yes. Say less, you got it.
Yeah.
Perfect example. My wife was like, King been asking for a date. King is my son. And what we used to do before times got really busy is every weekend, a different kid would get a date with us. So we would date our kids separately. So each child had a different hour with mama and then a different hour with daddy. We'd swap out and take the other child. And we did it every weekend because you are ever changing every day of every day. So if I'm not checking in with you to see what's changing, I'm going to lose track of who you are. So we were very intentional with that date. As of recently, we stopped it only because times got really busy. Mama took off, daddy took off, and now we're like, okay, wait, we got to get back to the bare minimum because our children are suffering, right? We went up there to look at their rooms, and it was like chaos because they live upstairs and we live downstairs now. That's another change that happened since I saw you. But so now we're in the basement, and we made the basement our whole master suite. And the kids are all upstairs, so we never go upstairs. So if you leave people who are trying to find their way through life alone, what happens? Chaos.
Chaos indeed.
So when we went upstairs, we could see the chaos that was happening. Oh, what is this? Why is the bathroom not clean? Because we're not there to guide anymore. Right? So now we got to get back to the basics, and we're working on that right now. But provision is whatever the people who call you the provider need of you. It doesn't have to be financial. It's whatever they need. That's my pushback. Because men only think money. Nah, you got to provide more than just financial in a safe space. You got to give them an ear to listen. You got to give them a heart that they can trust. You got to give them all these different things based upon what your children need of you. That's your job, right? So, that was my only pushback.
No, that's good. I want first and foremost, as y'all were talking today, I want to do this once a month if y'all are down, and we just gonna call it Dad Talk. It don't have to be this particular topic, but we just get on and just talk because I think a lot of people are really being blessed by this conversation today. Even if it's just moms on here who are getting insight into their man and trying to understand them and trying to understand why they have a struggle, if they do struggle with this conscious parenting journey. But I want Esteban to touch on something before we close out, and that is, I'm sure y'all all can, but I just know Esteban and his work ethic. Sometimes his job keeps him away from his family at times, and I want him to speak to how he still manages to work his job and make time for his family. Can you speak to that, Esteban?
Yeah. As soon as I walk in the door, it's family time. I think one of the things that Josh said about, like, you know, it's a blessing that you can have a partner that you can, when you can't answer certain questions or you can't lead in a certain area, that you can go to them and ask them questions, ask for the answers. So shout out to all the single parents, man. They lead in every single area. Just shout out to you, because I was raised by a single parent, and I know why I'm not good in certain areas. And it's not totally her fault, because our father abandoned us. But, you know, it also doesn't give them reason to be like, oh, like she's amazing and everything like that. There was some flaws, but shout out to the parents, man, to all the single parents, that, especially the ones that push the conscious parenting, man. Like, you guys are amazing to do that, because you can feed off of each other. But I always look at it as a challenge. Back to that question that you had, like, originally, like the whole conscious parenting and dudes not jumping on board with it, along with everything. And to answer your question, everything is a challenge for me, and I'm all about discipline. I work in a field where you have to de-escalate with your words. You don't got weapons or anything like. So if somebody comes at you aggressive, you got to use your words. Prior to that, I used to work with juvies in juvenile hall and probation homes, group homes. You have to use your words. You can't put your hands on the kids. And that has also allowed me to be such a great parent with my words. We de-escalate situations. We use patience as an advantage to us. One of my supervisors said, like, dude, this is a 12-hour shift. You got all the time in the world, and you're getting paid every hour. So why are you going to escalate it? Why are you going to push the issue? Just chill, like, relax, talk to the individual, de-escalate it. Same thing with parenting. I mean, these kids, they're your kids. Like, what are you trying to do? What are you going to do? You're going to slam them to the ground and, you know, end a discussion? Nah, that's what we're trying to get rid of. And that's the thing with me, man. Like, I could work a 12, 16-hour shift, but as soon as I see my kids, you know, you got to focus on them. Sundays is my first day off of the week. And first thing, I get my rest, wake up, and, you know, family time. That's what it has to be. You focus on them. You try to catch up with them. Something that Josh said about dates, man, I really want to implement that into our kids. Maybe have like a day with my daughter, all day with her, next day with my son, all day with him. You know, that'll be so cool. But I always question dads, and I ask dads, man, like, along with anything, you want that perfect body. You see that equipment in the back, man. You're trying to lift weights. Same thing with parenting, man. My boy Carlos from Modern Macho, I think he had a quote a while back about, it's just like the muscle, man. Like, in order to get it big, you got to work on it every day. It's a daily grind. It's not like a one-day thing. Every single day. There's going to be days where you're not going to be feeling it, but it's a marathon, not a sprint, man. So,
Bar, one more time for the people.
It's a marathon, not a sprint, baby.
Right. Man, this has been so rich. I got 4 mini pages of notes from all the stuff that I've gathered from y'all this evening. And I really, like I said, I hope this conversation was a blessing to those who have had the opportunity to be a part of it. And I want to acknowledge some of these questions that have come up. And so let's get to it. So Oh, so many. Let me start. So they're coming up. Okay, there we go. Renee said, for Vivek, how did you explain this non-corrosive way of parenting to other parents around you?
Yeah, when my kid was in elementary school, I was very quickly voted in as chair of the school council. And so I was in, and plus I was a volunteer. I volunteered in the class, and I volunteered in the music department. I volunteered as assistant coaching all the sports teams. So I was around the kids all the time. And it was pretty clear to the other parents and the teachers and pretty much everybody that saw me interacting with the kids that there was something different about the way the kids responded to me.
Yeah.
And they didn't know what it was, and so that curiosity really helped me have an inroad in explaining what I do. And even when I would go to friends' houses and their kids would respond to me differently, like I went to this a few years ago. I went to this friend's house that I hadn't met before because she lives in a different part of the continent, and I happened to be traveling, and I went to her place, and she was like, "Well, my kid is really slow to warm up to people, and his room is very private, and he doesn't take anyone to his room, so don't feel offended." And it wasn't even 5 minutes, and we were in his room, and he was showing me his most precious things, and he was opening up his little box that he never even shows his mom. And she comes in, and her eyes were wide. She was like, "What's happening?" And it was just like the deep respect that I showed him, the deep interest in his life and his thoughts and the way he sees the world that I showed him. And he was like, I wanted to show everything to this person, And so a lot of it is the example that I set in how I treat kids, the example that I set in how they respond to me. Yeah. And then from that, I'm able to say, what's happening here is they're feeling me as a human being. They're not seeing me as an adult, because adults are usually authority figures that we have to be. They're obstacles that we have to navigate.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to. I'm never an obstacle, right? I'm another human, and so that human connection. And so that's kind of that. I would say that for me, the example comes first, and then from there, explaining what that's about and how it's achieved.
I like that.
Yeah,
that's so good. Let me it's kind of the thing. It's coming up here. Did you consciously make the decision when your child was born? I get maybe you kind of answered it already too.
I think so.
Yeah. Okay. Making sure. Melanated mama. Did it come up? Still a little slow. Sorry, I'm trying to figure it out here. It's not on the screen, but I'll read it. Does having a village of other conscious dads help you in your journey? This is for anybody.
Birds of a feather flock together. I have been blessed to have a bunch of relationships that benefit me in different areas, right? So I have my dad groups that are all about sports, and then we talk that. I got dad groups that are all about fatherhood and the rise of popularity and acknowledging dads, right? And so that group does that work. I have my group with DJ, Mr. Kev, the religious and conscious parenting side of things, right? To answer the question very plainly, you don't know what you don't know. Yep. When you get around people who can broaden the horizon, then you can start to gain the knowledge. So having a village, having a circle, having a group, whatever you call your brothers, is either going to lead to your detriment or your improvement. Who you surround yourself with will often tell the story of where you're going to go long term.
I second that. Like, I don't know how many times I've come to Esteban, or he's come to me with us living locally, near each other, where we're like, hey, let's get the boys together, let's hang out, or man, I had this really rough moment, and we'll talk it out and we'll have a conversation around it. But it's him, it's other dads that I'm in community with that just makes this journey so much better. And I think more importantly, and this is, Vivek, I'm sure you see this in your parenting groups or, your work with parents. One of the first things that always is a revelation for parents is that they realize that they're not the only ones dealing with what they're dealing with. And so being able to see yourself and like, oh man, you dealing with this too. It's just powerful. And I encourage any dad out there who, you know, struggling to find community, tap in with any of us. You know, follow any of our pages. I can point you to at least one dad circle that's meeting every other week, or a group of dads getting together on a Zoom chat. Dads all across the country, and so that's something that you can message me. I've DM'd with a couple of dads who have some questions or have some thoughts. I'm coaching dads right now. I still have some space for now. I keep telling y'all that it's about to run out. But there's community out there. There's resources out there to help dads. I don't, and not even say get on a conscious parenting train, but just kind of get you to a space where your mind is open to being a better father to your child. Like that's ultimately what we want from you. And in that process of that, you just become a better person in that process. So
I was going to say, DJ, conscious parenting is great. But when you get around the men who've done their work to be conscious parents,
right,
they're gonna force you to do your work.
Exactly.
Before we start talking about conscious parenting.
Yeah,
there's layers, right? So
exactly.
I'm not going to take you to the mountaintop and say, we got to start at the bottom. We got to climb. So, okay, let's talk about your childhood. What did you see? What didn't you? And then you start to do the work on self-noticing things so that when you get in your household, okay, got it. Until you have that realization, we're pushing you too far. The village is there and it's great, but there's work you got to do first.
Absolutely. I love it. Just her had a question that I thought was dope. What would you say goes on in the mind of a man that deliberately stays absent from his son's life? I'll start it off, and if anybody else wants to kind of chime in. My dad wasn't in my life for most of it. My parents had me when they were 16, so you know, I started to understand why he wasn't there. But when I had conversations with him, he wanted to be there. And in the beginning, out of respect for my stepdad, he didn't kind of want to come around at that point. And then I think ultimately, he just never wasn't in a space to be the dad that I needed him to be. I think my dad ultimately had like 15 or so kids. Like, you can't be who you need to be, I think, to 15 kids by different moms, right? Like that's just, I'm overwhelmed by my one sometimes, so I can imagine. And so I think this is it's specific to this specific dad, but overall in general, I think there's a lot of dads out there, especially if they've experienced something like this where their dad wasn't in their life, or even if their dad was in their life, they just didn't have the connection with their dads that we're trying to push dads to get to now. I just think a lot of them don't show, like they don't have the ability to be who they need to be for their dad. And so, and like instead of being a failure in that, they rather not try in the first place. And so that's kind of what I think and see from dads who just choose to kind of be absent. It's easier to be absent than to be present and be a failure in something that you're hoping and wishing you could be. I'm sure he had intentions when the baby was born to be the dad that he would hope to be. But once that baby comes, you get hit with all these different realities and all these different things that kind of come up for you. And you're like, whoa, I don't know if I can do this. I want to talk to Esteban because I know his dad also wasn't there. Is that kind of along the lines? Or do you see it from a different perspective, Esteban?
No, I second that. For me, what was going on in my head was like the what ifs. What if he stayed around? But I seen my father abuse my mom. Yeah. So the what if could have been totally negative. I could have went a different path. My mom could have probably been dead. You know, we could have probably been dead because he would beat us too. Like when we would mess up. I remember I got jumped one time and I would not come home, or when I finally came home, because, you know, I had the black eye, I had a bloody nose and everything. If my dad saw me all beat up, he would have beat me up more because he probably would have thought, man, you're a punk. Like, how are you going to get your ass whooped? Did you knock anybody else? I hope the other guy looks worse than you did. You know, so there's that fear. Like, But there's always that what if. And then, you know, another what if is, as soon as my father left, I was automatically the man of the house. So I lost my childhood from the age of 11 on. I no longer could be a kid. Like, but even before that, he was in and out of my life. So I always questioned that, like, man, like I had a crazy childhood, but what if I was in a better family? And which is why, like, when I used to watch TV, I used to look up to like dads like was it Family Matters, you know, the Uncle Phils from Fresh Prince. You know, I used to look up to those dads, and I used to, like, you know, just dream one day and think about, like, man, when I grow up, man. And I told this to one of my buddies the other day. Like, they were all talking about, like, oh, like, you know, my dream is for this and that, you know. And I told them, like, shit, I'm living my dream, man. When I was a kid, I used to cry at night wondering, like, why did God punish me, and why did God put me in this situation? Like, I wish I had the mom and the dad that loved me every single day, and that kissed me and said goodnight. Or I wish this and I wish that. So there's always been that what if in my head. So that's what's been going on in my head, like, my whole life.
Yeah, that's good.
Oh, that's intense.
All right.
That's good.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
DJ, can I add a perspective real quick?
Yeah.
I was talking to a group of young brothers at the job I just left. I just quit my job and I start a new one tomorrow. Representation matters. It is a key theme that we spoke of. When I say that, for the community that I live in that looks like me, Black fatherhood has a horrible name, right? It's a very tarnished name. It's a very ugly existence. If you're not just this no good baby daddy, then you're just not around. And that's the gist of the spectrum. Yeah. Which is why Melanated Daddy means so much to me, because the stats show that dads are here. The stats don't show the struggles we go through to do what we do or anything. So for my children, my bonus babies, their father has a plethora of things against him, which is why he's not present. Yeah. As much as I would love to tear him down and be like, no, bro, he's my kids, blah, blah. The fact of the matter is very simple. He never saw a dad show up in the way he needed to, so he couldn't show up. There was no representation. Uncle Phil was a dream to us, not knowing that we can make it a reality. Representation matters, which is why, DJ, when you speak, when Mr. Kev and the rest of the group are talking, he's like, look, fellas, dads, hop on. Because representation is what's needed. Because if you don't know, the only way you're gonna know is by seeing somebody tell you what you don't know.
That's good.
Esteban, I'm sorry to hear what you went through. My story is a little different. I'm a single mother, but she was a single mother by choice because she wouldn't have a man because she was her own man. So I had that dynamic of a mother who was super masculine and absolutely nothing else. So it was all the masculine energy in the world, but there was no cater. There was no covering. There was no love. There was no nurturing. It was abuse and money thrown at you to make the abuse feel better. So I understand your dynamic because I was there. My mom used to tell me at 9, you know you're the man in this house, right? How? I'm 9.
Third, fourth grade,
This ain't my house. It's your house.
Yeah.
But representation matters. And if you don't have somebody to show you what you don't know, you get lost in what you think the fallacy is. I'm not wanted for real. They don't need me, X, Y, and Z. So, yeah.
That's good. Melanie and Mama had so many good questions, but I want to end it with this because, it's getting late. I know Vivek is on East Coast time, right?
That's right.
Yeah. And you all on Central Time, so let's close it out with this one, and I think it's good. What are your parenting goals and your best achievement to date? We'll start with Vivek.
Sure. Yeah, well, like I said before, my kid's 25. And so parenting goals from the early days, I would say my parenting goals were that that I raised my kid in such a way that they know themselves and they love themselves and they honor themselves.
Mm,
I always had those three in my head. And I would
mm,
think to myself, is what I'm doing helping her to know herself, not know what I think she needs to be, not be influenced by what society thinks she needs to be, but does she know herself? And then once she knows herself, does she love herself? And then putting those together, does she honor herself? You know, and all the things that would get in the way with that, I would fight with like tooth and nail. I would fight against it.
mm,
And the second half of that is the relationship. Like I said before, I always dreamed that when my kid was older, that we would be friends and we would hang out and we would do things together. And I have to say, the relationship that we have now, it it it's beyond anything I ever could have imagined.
mm,
You know, when people see us walking down the street together, they cross the street just to interact with us because they want to know who we are and what's going on.
mm.
Um, we we uh, we used to go to the same when she was in high school. She's 25 now, but when she was in high school, we would go to the same Subway sandwiches a couple of times a week because she loves her subs. And
Mhm.
so all the employees got to know us there. And then after about a year, they knew our subs and everything. We didn't even have to order really. We would just walk in.
Wow.
And then after about a year, I went in there alone because she was sick one day and I went to get her a sub. And the employees behind the counter, they were all like 20-something-year-olds, right? They said, "Oh, where's your friend?" And there was three people behind the counter. And I said, "Oh, that's not my friend. That's my daughter." And they went, "No." And I said, "Yeah, it's my kid." They went, "No, it's not possible." And I wish I was exaggerating, but I'm not exaggerating. They started holding their heads like this and shaking their heads, going, "No, no," and walking back and forth behind the counter, kind of bumping into each other like a comedy routine, going,
Yeah.
"No, it's not possible. It's not possible." And then they said, "It can't be your kid." And they called there was one other in the back. They said, "Lisa, come out. You know this guy?" "Yeah, I know." I said, "That's his daughter." "What, his daughter?" "No, it can't be possible." So finally I stopped the ball. I said, "Wait, wait, 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 wait. What's happening here? I have to know what's happening here. Why are you people having this extreme reaction?" So they all took a breath and they all kind of gathered around me and they said, "Listen, we've been working here for a few years and we see hundreds of families come through here. And we have never seen parents and children that actually treat each other like friends,
Mm,
that actually have a human relationship. Like it's whole hard for us to believe that you two are parent and child." I'll tell you, that was one of my proudest moments. That's what it says.
mm,
What are your best moments? That was one of my
yeah.
proud moments. I was like, because we never. It's not like we were trying to do that. We were just buying subs. Literally, we were just buying subs, being ourselves, being friendly with them, interacting with each other, laughing with each other, being who we are with each other in our lives.
Mhm.
You know. But the impact that that had on them was so profound. And so for me, that's those two things: that my kid knows themselves, you know,
Mm.
loves
Yep.
themselves and honors themselves, which an incredible way. Like I don't know anyone who knows themselves like my kid knows themselves,
Mm,
and she knows me better than I know myself, actually. And that we would have this deep relationship, and you know, like we still go on dates at 25. We still go on dates all the time. We go away for the weekend all the time together, and we're planning our next weekend away to Niagara Falls right now, and she often tells me that, "Dad, I just have dreams of you all the time where we're just doing stuff together. It's not like weird or anything. We just go to the store together." And she loves having these like everyday dreams of us just be doing things together.
mm,
And her mom and her have this is a completely different relationship, but the same kind of closeness, the same
mm,
kind of honoring of each other. And so, you know, like moving forward, all I can say is more of the same, you know, more
mm.
of the same. Always being a support for her where she can lean on me, where when she goes through a hard time, she knows I'm there, and experiencing joy in each other's lives.
I love that.
Yeah.
Esteban, talk to us. Parenting goals and best achievement to date.
Oh man, you know, to this day I haven't put hands on my kids. You know, I
Yeah.
haven't repeated anything that my people from the past have. My elders, my some of my family members. Um, you know, I was gonna say this earlier. Josh answered it, or one of you answered it. Um, you know, thank God, like I don't want to say thankful, but there's a silver lining to the pandemic, man.
Mm.
I had that break from my family, the family that was so toxic. And I got to meet some great men and got close to them, DJ, other people in my community that I could call and confide in, and ask questions in, and just to hear it from them, like, damn, that's a parenting win for the week, man. And we give each other dap and we shout each other out, and like the other day I told DJ, like, I guess he let it slip out, like he didn't read Kai a bedtime story, and I'm like, dude, I'm gonna have to check you on that one. You better read to your kid at night before bed, because we're big on that. We're big on literacy, especially from our communities, right? So, man, just like stuff like that, man, like I'm very happy that I haven't repeated some of the same cycles, and we're breaking them, man. And going forward, I see a bright future for us, especially our generation, man. The snowflake generation.
Brilliant. Right on.
Get some t-shirts made. Josh?
Yep.
When you make the t-shirt for the snowflake revolution, send me one.
There you go.
I'll rock it every day.
I love it. I love it. I want one.
I've been pondering this question the whole time, and then two parts. Number one, I'm very critical of myself. If I'm not perfect, you heard my wife.
I did.
If it's not perfect or done the way I see it, it's a failure. And I'm still remapping where it all stems to mama, but we'll circumvent that part for now. I think if I put my parenting in a bubble, I want my children to understand a host of things, but number one is that people who don't chase you aren't valued. You deserve to be chased. And not chased after abuse or being done wrong 40,000 times, but the effort of chasing me, I'm worth it. Number two, I want my children to understand that daddy was flawed, but he chose me every day. I never try to hide the flaws that I maintain. The Army gave me some, my mama gave me some. I'm flawed. I'm okay with that. I'm not okay with it, but I'm okay with it because I have to be. I'm flawed.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, I think my biggest win, and DJ, you might have heard this story already, but my daughter was doing her homework, and the homework said, "Tell me about your superhero." And I was like, "Okay, cool." My daughter finna say her dad, and I gotta be. I'm bracing myself to say, "Daddy, how do you spell Terrell?" Like, no, get yourself together. It's coming. I said, "Okay." I said, "Well, baby, who do you want to write down?" She said, "Oh, I wrote your name down, Daddy." I said, "What?" And her explanation was, "I wrote you down because you choose me every day."
Wow. Wow.
And she was 7? Yeah. She was 7 at the time. A 7-year-old
Amazing.
could tell me, "You're my hero because you choose me every day."
So much depth.
In that moment, I realized that what my wife had created in this conscious household was working. It's hard because all of my children are neurodivergent. So they're not just conscious, but they come with different levels and steps that they need you to show up at and share the calm, share the peace, X, Y, Z. And I suck at it. I'm still working. I'm getting better. My wife gives me my kudos. I'm getting better. But I was never one who was shared with. I was isolated. Go to your room and deal with it. Well, I didn't deal with it. It's still there, right? So that is my biggest win, is the fact that my children can tell you their father chooses them every day. Biggest win.
Wow. Man, so many good stuff on here, man. Man, parenting goals for me, man. I want to continue to do right by my son, and do it in collaboration with my wife. Like, one thing that I'm proud of is just our level of communication with each other in our relationship, but more importantly, in our parenting of our son. I can tell already that my son is in tune with who he is as a person, just full of curiosity, full of energy. And I'm just so happy that I haven't stifled that. There are times where I want to, because it is a lot to deal with, but he channels that energy really well, and things that he loves, whether it's soccer or dancing, which I have to sign him up for. So Esteban, keep me in check on that one. But just being able to just do this thing without kind of all the coercion and all those different things. And like I said, I tell y'all all the time, I'm flawed, man. I yell too many times. I think it's down to about once or twice a week now, but I just and one of the things that I'm proud of as well is like, just what does the family need from me in this moment? Like, what do they need, and how can I do it, right? So there's been a shift for us. I think my wife used to take my son to daycare consistently. I think like a year ago or whatever it's been, and we had a shift around the pandemic, honestly, where it's like, okay, now I have to take them to school and pick them up and do different things. And so right now with my schedule now, being an entrepreneur, my wife's schedule is stringent, and so I'm getting them ready for school, and I'm taking them and I'm picking them up. And one of the things that I think I was like a couple minutes late, and my son was like, "Dad, you took forever." Like, so the next day he was like, "I need you to be right here, like at this time. And when I come out," because the way that they do it is the teacher kind of says who's out there to pick you up, and so the kid has to point out who they know. Um, and so he's like, "You gotta be right here," and then being able to be there that next day and say, "Hey man, I'm never gonna leave you, kid. Like, I'm never gonna forget you, right? I'm never gonna
Wonderful,
leave
wonderful.
you here stuck at school." But just it's the small things, and as Josh said, it's challenging and it's hard. And the way that we're parenting, Esteban said it as well. It's a marathon, not a sprint, and so you're not always gonna get immediate wins in this thing. Like what we're doing is setting us up for long-term wins, right? We want, if I'm using a sports analogy, we want a QB that's going to be our QB for 10 to 15 years, right? We want to be able to set something in stone, set foundations in place, so we can have, as Vivek has shared, the relationship that we ultimately deserve with our kids, but ultimately they want from us as we're growing and becoming the people that we are. The thing that I think parents struggle with the most is, as their child is growing and evolving through their lives, we have failed to grow and evolve right along with them. And so I just want to make sure that I never stop growing and I never stop evolving, because at the end of the day, I am a human being. I'm flawed. I'm not perfect. But each day I'm doing my best. And I want my son to know that each day you're trying your best. That's all I ask for. So I love y'all, man. This is such a dope conversation. I knew it wasn't going to be like no 45-minute situation. I knew it was going to be long. I was trying to brace myself and speaking into existence, but y'all are just too dope of people, where we could cut this thing short. And of course, if y'all are willing, I'm down to do this once a month, and we just call it
I love
Dad
it.
Talk, and we just come and we chop it up, and just have conversations. Maybe we just answer questions next time. But I just want y'all to know that y'all are loved, y'all are cherished. I am not afraid to tell the guys in my life that I admire and appreciate that I love y'all and y'all look good. It's just something Esteban knows, man. I tell him I love him and I'll give him a big old hug. It is what it is. We shifting dynamics, we're changing generations. And I appreciate y'all. Any final words before we go?
It's been a blessing. I'm very grateful. I loved our conversation today, and I learned so much, and I'm so inspired by all of you. So thank you. I'm excited to
Thank
do
you.
this again.
Of course, brother.
Yeah.
DJ Vivek had to say that, knowing darn well we all learn from Vivek half of the
Absolutely.
session. I don't know what Vivek talking about. I was like, he learned from me. What? Anyway, the parting words from none of that is very simple.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. You're a gem. The parting words from me are very simple. Conscious parenting is not for suckers. So
Yep.
do the work.
Bar.
So and I'm going to give the credit to that title to the wife because that was the name of the seminar she made me teach with her.
I love
But
that.
conscious parenting is not for suckers.
I
No,
love it.
conscious
I love
parent
it.
ain't for suckers.
She said ain't for
Ain't,
suckers. I'm saying
ain't.
isn't.
Suckers.
I'm gonna use the proper vernacular. Isn't for suckers, right?
Eight
Oh God,
for
I have
suckers.
to
I'm
meme
with your
that
wife.
one. I have to meme that one.
But
That's
at the
amazing.
same token, doing the work makes you not a sucker.
Oh,
So do the work.
Do the work.
Very simple. Do the work.
E, final words.
You know, survival of the fittest out here, man. When it comes to this parenting, you know, I would say I would like make the audience do some homework, man, and like do something you've never done, like with your child, or like try something different, something that we shared. You know, you got some great dads here that dropped some gems tonight or today, this evening. Try one out. See, and then maybe the next time we get all together, you could share with us how it went.
Brilliant.
So I challenge you to do that.
Hey, Esteban, since you putting challenges out,
Uh-oh.
I'm gonna challenge you to date your kids. Get a date on the books, and when we talk next
Hey,
time,
Oh,
there you
right.
go.
we'll hear about that
Right
date.
There you
there.
go.
I'm good. I got it.
And then DJ,
got
I'm
you.
challenging myself. I'm gonna have the conversation with all four of these babies. Number two, the last one is two. She ain't gonna say much, but I want to figure out what each one of my children need from me that I'm not giving them. So I'm gonna have that conversation with my kids, and I'll report back when we back next.
I love it.
Cool.
I love
Yeah,
it.
and I'll throw out a challenge too then, since we're doing this. Every time, and I'm going to include myself in it too because I need it. Every time we make a mistake, that we practice being kinder to ourselves.
Ooh, Vivek, that's hard.
I know it, man.
Every time we make a mistake, practice being more kind to ourselves. You got the wife jumping and praising the kitchen.
Oh my goodness, man, this is so good, man. We know that this is not going to be the last of these conversations, so I'll be looking forward to reaching. And it's so dope. Like I literally texted y'all yesterday, I think, and was like, "Yo, I want to do this. Are y'all down?" And all of them were down. I posted it to my stories like, "Yo, be there or be square." And y'all delivered, and I appreciate it. You got people in the comments who are like, "Yo, this was fire. This is a conversation that was so needed, so inspiring." Sorry, my phone telling me it's about to die. If you're out there, just start where you are, dads. Like, and what that means is like, what are you good at right now as a dad, and just continue to be that. And as you branch out, you know, little by little, learn something new, learn something different. That's going to help you be a better dad to your child. As Josh said, like, what do your children need from you? And hold space for that conversation. I tell parents all the time, especially with teens, like, let them know, like, what am I doing right as your parent? What can I improve on? And really work towards improving on the things that they mention and suggest to you. That's the start of that connection. That's the start of holding safe space for your kiddo. So let's leave before we continue. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. This will be reposted. So once I repost, feel free to share it with anybody who you feel might be blessed by this conversation. Each of y'all have a great rest of y'all week. I hope you had a good weekend. And yeah, I'll talk to y'all soon, brothers.
I appreciate y'all. Have a great week.
Sandy.